Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good evening. My name is Samin, and I'll be hosting the Fit Investment Solutions podcast today. You guys might know me from the Sydney Brothers. We are actually making a debut in BCL 2023 this weekend. If you've ever seen me, I was probably walking around wearing a bright pink jersey, and you might actually find my voice might sound a bit familiar as well, as I spent a good deal of time in the commentary box. So that's about me. The person that we'll be with tonight is Maree, who is a property consultant at Fit Investment Solutions, who are proud sponsors of BCL 2023. And every man of the match gets a $5,000 voucher, as you guys might have actually heard of or even seen on the live streams. They are giving a $5,000 purchase voucher for their company. So with that, I'll invite Maree in, and we'll get straight into this discussion.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Maree. It's very nice to have you. So as mentioned, Fit Investment Solutions, you guys are giving a $5,000 voucher to every man of the match in this competition. And I do want to give you a huge thanks for that. And I do have to say that on our opening day last Sunday, we had 3 lucky man of the matches. So there are 3 lucky people in the community that do actually hold those vouchers. And over the next couple of months, there will be a lot more that'll have those as well. So I'll just get you to, I guess, introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about what you do.
Oh, great. Well, wonderful. That's really good to hear. And I'm glad that you had a first good week, and congratulations to those 3 who got the man of the match. Yes, I'm Maree. So I work for Fit Investment Solutions. We're an investment company. We're based in Sydney and also in Queensland. So I'm one of the Sydney property consultants. I've been with the company now going on nearly 8 years. I really love what I do, and just really, really enjoy it and enjoy helping people. So a bit about our company is we do a turnkey solution for investors. So we package everything down from the land to the build, right through to looking after the rentals as well.
Cool, that's very interesting, and it's good to hear that you guys have been in it for about 8 years now. So you're pretty tenured, in what you guys do, and you guys have definitely gone through different market conditions within the Australian property market. Tell us a bit about how Fizz actually formed.
We actually formed. Going back even further, you could go back probably 11 years. The founder his background was accountant and broker, and he was heavily involved in that, working with other builders, just selling their stock. And then, he really thought, you know what, there's a bigger market here, a better way to help those people and give them better value. So, he decided to create Fit Investment Solutions, and that started in actually that Kellyville, Rouse Hill area. That's what their main office is at Norwest. Which is, you need that Balcombe Hills area, still is there, has been from the beginning, but just started off quite small and just getting out there, helping those mum and dad investors get into the property market. Back then, we were heavily focused on the Sydney and Melbourne market. That was really where all of our packages were. The last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, that has really moved on to the Southeast Queensland market. And it really still is there as well at the moment, because that is where that best growth is, which I'm sure we'll go into a bit later.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I actually grew up in the Kellyville area, and I actually watched Rouse Hill kind of get built. It was just dirt, and then I watched all the roads being made and the humongous shopping mall and that sort of thing. So interesting to hear that you guys started there, and we'll definitely delve into how you guys actually made the move into purchasing for customers, specifically within Queensland. So let's talk about the property market. Everyone's saying all kinds of things, prices are going down, prices are going up, or, at the moment, or that, this person has this prediction or that person has that prediction. So there's it's like there's so much information, you don't really know, where to kind of look at for a good source. So for someone like yourself that's been in the industry for so long, that's really been doing this, I want to get your thoughts on, just your thoughts on the current state of the property market in Australia as a whole.
Yeah, of course, and you're right. It's a massive question, and it is a difficult one to answer in full term. However, if you look at property realistically, you need to get it for long term, especially you're looking at a house. So correct, the Sydney market has dropped a little bit of late, and due to many factors. However, you need to take into account how quickly it grew. So yeah, but overall in Australia, the market really hasn't dropped that much. Definitely the area of our focus, it hasn't dropped at all. In fact, the last quarter, Brisbane grew another 3%. So that's saying something. But however, yes, everything you hear, it's Sydney, it's Melbourne, those markets have dropped. And even taking that into account, the drops have not been humongous, especially in the house and land new market. It's more so in the established premium suburbs where they're really feeling it more so. So you're talking around that 3 million plus market where those drops have been more significant. But overall in Australia, considering everything that's happened, all the impacts of, the wars, COVID, weather effects, shortages, we've held up pretty strong. And in terms of around the world, we're up there nearly some of the leaders with our property market, talking residential. So what I would say to people is go into it with a 7 to 10 year plan. Don't go into it thinking you're going to buy something today and then in a year's time make 500,000, $1 million, because that's not realistic. If you can go into it level-headed, thinking I can get something now, 10-year plan, you will do very well. It will be a very low-risk investment.
100%. Yeah, I think that's a common mistake that's made by a lot of young investors, especially just because they're looking for that quick kind of turnaround, and that not exactly trying to become a millionaire overnight, but just make gains really really quick on investments. They kind of go into it with the wrong mindset, and instead of that 7 to 10 year view or even longer, it might be a kind of like a 1 to 3 year view, and that's probably not the right way to go about it. So we'll go back onto that topic of, and this is something that I wanted to ask, which was, why you guys are actually purchasing specifically in the state of Queensland. So like you mentioned, you guys are purchasing in started off in Kellyville, Rouse Hill, that sort of thing, and then New South Wales and Victoria. So yeah, what kind of caused that shift to Queensland?
Well, in the beginning, talking 4 years ago, that shift was purely we couldn't get land in Sydney anymore. But then that's why we did really start focusing on Southeast Queensland. And when I say Southeast Queensland, we're talking as far up north as like Moreton Bay, Deception Bay Council, which is probably around 40 kilometres north of Brisbane CBD, and down to the Gold Coast, and then out to, people say Toowoomba, however, we like to stick in a bit closer to the outer Ipswich regions, because with our model, we do like to be within an hour radius of Brisbane CBD and also Gold Coast if we can, because they're the two major pockets. But the reason we did move up there is, one, we could easily access land and the affordability of it. And then over years, we found that the yielding, so when I say yielding, the return on investment, so the rent that you're getting in compared to what you're outlaying in terms of your loan, it was nearly double of what that Sydney and Melbourne market was. And then leading up over the last 3 years, it was price driven as well. Our mum and dad investors didn't want Sydney and Melbourne because they purely couldn't afford to hold it and still live a comfortable life. So that Brisbane market really just made sense just for that holding aspect, because they were positively geared. And then look what happened when Brisbane just grew. So it just took off. As soon as they announced the Olympics, that market just started to boom. Brisbane will be holding the Olympics in 2032. So we've got another 9 years to go. And with that, obviously, comes all of your population growth, infrastructure, billions of dollars thrown into that economy. So yeah, in the beginning, it was just purely because it was affordable and it made sense. And now, over the last few years, it's just really because of it's going to be one of the low risk, strongest growing markets in Australia.
Yep. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I guess you kind of tied into my next question, which is why Queensland properties are a great investment for investors at this point in time. So I guess on that topic, what have your current clients said about their experience with you guys and actually buying in Queensland?
Well, we've just last year, I would have personally sold nearly, well, it was around just over 80 packages just personally. And a lot of them are still in construction because land wasn't registered. But the ones that have got it, they're quite happy. And what they love is the stress-free process. We really take control and do everything from start to finish. So we get out there, they give us an indication of what it is they want to spend. If they have areas in mind, we take that on board, but we really dig deep and we present to them what we believe will suit their needs. And then we take it on the contract signing. We can help out with solicitors if need be, brokers if need be. And then throughout that whole selling on the land and the build process, we really drive all of that. And then at the end of it, we do give them the option of the rental agreement, which I think you were asking me about maybe a bit later. But we're a one-stop shop and we do everything from start to finish. And in the end product, they're just extremely happy because it's a sit and forget investment. Yes, they're putting their money somewhere, but it's a stress-free way of doing it rather than getting in and finding your own builder, finding the land yourself, landscaper, real estate agent, everything.
Yeah.
So clients are very happy.
100%. Well, yeah. Now it's really good that you guys are doing all that, because one of the things that kind of stops a lot of people from getting in the market is they don't really know where to start. And again, just because they're buying a house, it's probably at that point in their life the biggest purchase that they're going to be making until that point. So when they go into it and they don't know what to do or where to start, they might just shy away from it and think, I might just go ahead and invest my money elsewhere. So the fact that your clients can kind of just sit back and you guys will do all of that. I think that's a really good thing that you guys are covering, and it's really, really applicable, especially to my age group, my demographic that's trying to get in the market, but a lot of people are just too scared that there's just too much ambiguity and they just don't want to be spending all that money going into something that it's not really guaranteed to yield a huge benefit to them. So that's really reassuring, I think, definitely for a lot of the viewers. On that topic, another thing that's really scary is interest rates. So those have just been, climbing up over the last few months, or I would say actually over the last year. I got a loan in August last year, and my interest rate was 2.19%, and now I'm paying like over 5%. So you could also imagine my repayments have absolutely skyrocketed. So give us your take on interest rates, because that's another thing that really stops people from getting in the market, because they think if this just keeps going up, at some point I'm not going to be able to afford this at all.
Of course, and you definitely have to consider that. And the banks won't allow you either to borrow more than your means, because they always put that buffer in there for that interest rate to go up. So it is important to realize interest rates were, like you said, under 3%. 3 years ago, and then look what happened to inflation. Realistically, interest rates have to come up. They're never going to sit at that record low. It's just not going to happen. If you look back, before COVID, an average interest rate would be around that 5%. And even previous to that, interest rates were a lot higher. So as an investor, you do always need to allow, a little bit of a higher interest rate, but not let that scare you, because it is what it is, really. You're not going to get that 2% interest rate. Yes, yielding will be slightly lower. However, overall, by the time you factor in all your expenses, your depreciation, which is quite large because these are brand new builds, it really does offset it a little bit. But don't let interest rates going up scare you, or else you will never invest. You just need to ride the wave. If you look at history, they always go up and down. And I would say that there's probably another 2 hikes in it, and then I think it will plateau off. And the Brisbane market is a perfect place to invest because prices are quite low. So if you are considering that higher interest rate, you should get lower debt, which is really that Brisbane market, because it's probably half of what you'd get in Sydney. So the yieldings are really strong, but you just need to take the lead, and it's an investment. So go with it over that 7 to 10 year period and allow for those ups and downs. And if interest rates stay 2% forever, every single person would have 10 investments, but it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I'll hope that you're right with the prediction of 2 more hikes and going down. That'll definitely help me with my repayments as well. So yeah, I know it's a crazy thing, and the way that it's gone up in the last year is absolutely unprecedented. So no, thank you very much for your take on that. Another thing that really stops people from kind of getting into the market is this whole concept of the fact that you need tenants. And if you don't have anyone that's paying your rent, well, then frankly speaking, your repayments are going to probably have to come out of your pocket. So when I actually first heard about you guys from Shahid, before we started this competition, I went on your website just to see, what are the kind of safety barriers that you actually offer to your clients. And I was very intrigued by this concept of this 10-year rental guarantee. I thought these guys must be going into this with a huge deal of confidence if they're happy to, cover rental payments when there's no tenants. So yeah, just tell us a bit more about that, and is there a catch? Because that's really reassuring to any potential client of yours.
Yeah, definitely. So one of, I guess, what we stand out from our competitors is offering a 10-year rental guarantee. And a lot of people go, wow, how do you do that? Well, we can do it, and we've been doing it for 7 years now. We used to do it in that Sydney and Melbourne market, and we did have to pull that from that Melbourne market. Oh, it was around 3 years ago. But that Brisbane market is definitely coming with that 10-year rent guarantee, which we do an official lease agreement. It goes to your lawyer, so that is locked in for 10 years. So when you do purchase a package through us, we offer that 10-year rent guarantee. And quickly, what it means is from when the first tenant signs that lease agreement, so it will go to the market as normal rent. So whatever is going on in that market. So you speak to your real estate agent and they tell you, this is what's happening in the neighborhood. We believe you can get this rent. So they try and get you as much as possible. So it goes off market's value. When they sign that lease agreement, that's when your rental guarantee starts. So from the first tenant moving in for 10 years, you're guaranteed rent without a break. So if that tenant moves out up to 12 months and then it takes a few weeks or a month or whatever to get another tenant in, you're still guaranteed what that tenant was paying. So if that tenant was paying $500 a week, you're guaranteed $500 a week without a break. Even if the tenant's late in paying or they're not paying or it's vacant, you're guaranteed that. And that rental guarantee increases with the market rent. So if in year 2 you put that up to $550, you're guaranteed $550 a week, and so on for that 10-year period. There's no catch to it. It's simple as we can do it because the vacancy rates are 0.3% at the moment. It's not going to sit there. It's not going to be vacant. But really, you will be paying a higher management fee by 4%. So it's equivalent to around $700 a year extra over that whole term for that rental guarantee. But it's not even 2 weeks rent if that property is sitting there. So it's for that peace of mind alone, it's worth it because you literally will never have to think about that investment. You've got a property manager and real estate looking after it all for you, and every month you know exactly what's coming in your bank account. So yeah, it's a really good option, especially for people who are younger and who feel like it's a bit risky, which it really isn't, but it gives you that peace of mind.
Yeah, definitely. And we do just have a question that's come up in the Facebook chat, which is, is the rental income actually reviewed every year to match with the current market value? So I think you already touched upon that, it is the owner's option. It is your client's option to actually, bump up the rent based off market conditions. And obviously if a tenant, if you are looking for tenants in the process to pay that amount, that you guys will be covering that. Is that right? During that time?
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, if that property is vacant within that interim from finding new tenants, then you're continuing to get what that old tenant was paying. But it's like a standard rental agreement. So generally, tenants will sign a 12-month lease, and then that will be reviewed by yourself and your property manager. And yes, if you can put the rent up, then by all means, that's what you do. Definitely. So yes, it does get reviewed after every lease agreement's expired.
That's interesting. And just a really quick one on that as well, just to close this topic off, was the standard lease agreement is obviously 12 months. But do clients have the option to, make that 6 months, like to halve it if they think it's this market is really booming. I don't want to keep my rent the same for 12 months. Can they just go with 6 month lease agreements?
Yes, they can. They can do a 6 month. That's the minimum they'll allow. But yes, and we say not to really go over 24 months either. Most people do a 12, but they can do a 6 month lease, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. That really clarifies that one. Thank you so much. Yeah, I thought there would be definitely, some kind of catch to it. But yeah, the fact that you guys are able to actually offer that assurance that your clients won't actually have rental income stopping at any point in time. That's I think, yeah, again, a huge reassurance for people. And it kind of eliminates that fear of I might not have tenants in there. I'll have to start paying my home loan or my investment loan repayments on top of all the expenses that I currently have as well. So that's really great. Next question is, again, because you're just an expert in the industry, then what's your advice for a young investor like myself?
Definitely for young investors, I highly recommend to rent invest. That's if you haven't already purchased your own owner occupier property. It's definitely hard, especially for those living in Sydney, for the young market to get into there and purchase an owner occupier property. And it does scare them and they just think we're never going to own anything. You can own something. Yes, you may not be living in it and it may not be in Sydney, but if you continue to either live at home with your parents or rent, purchase an investment. It's really the lowest risk thing you can do to put your money. It's definitely a lot lower risk than Bitcoin and shares. That market at the moment that's going. I wouldn't be putting all my money into that at the moment. I would be purchasing land, building a house, and just sitting on it, and let someone else pay that mortgage off for you, while you're still living a comfortable lifestyle where you want. But yeah, I definitely recommend to get at least one up your sleeve while you're young and then grow that portfolio as you get older, because you can do it. At the moment, we've got packages with a 5% yielding. So even if your interest rate is sitting at 5-6%, you're really not going to have to dig into your pocket much at all. You will be coming out neutral. And that's, if you can hold that for 7 years, you could potentially make $500,000. That's just doubling, which is, that's been modest for really not costing you anything at all. And the other thing about the rental market up in Queensland is it's just gone crazy. It has yes, Sydney rent's gone up, but Brisbane's nearly doubled. So the yielding's really strong still up there. So for a young person, it's a really, really good investment where you can still live a comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned with Sydney rent going up, and whereas in Queensland it's doubled, yet the vacancy rate, like you mentioned, is only about 0.3%. So can you provide any insight into what's causing people to want to stay in Queensland so badly that they're actually willing to pay these rent amounts that have been jacked up in the last year or so?
Yes, it has. It's gone crazy. Well, purely they don't want to move outside, but that people are actually flocking there. People are moving there. It's still more affordable to live there than it is, the other south coast of Australia, which is your Sydney and Melbourne. So Brisbane's just got a lot going for it. It's actually got the highest population growth predictions in all of Australia over the next 10 years. immigration's been redirected from Melbourne to Brisbane. So they're also a lot of the people who are wanting to rent for now until they settle in and then purchase a property. But they've got no option other than to pay that higher rent because there's a shortage at the moment. But even with that rent being higher, they can still afford it because it's still relatively low compared to Sydney and Melbourne. But yeah, it's growing. There's just a lot of work up there now, and the government is spending a lot on infrastructure. So it's just making it easier to live up there, more affordable, and people prefer that lifestyle as well.
Cool. That definitely clarifies. Because that's something that I've heard about. I actually invested in Queensland mid last year, and I know a lot of youngsters who have gone there as well. It's significantly more affordable. And people my age always complain that they'll never be able to afford a house in Sydney. And once you actually take a step back and ask, why do you need to specifically buy in Sydney? And you can actually open your mind to buying in other states, you actually realize that Queensland is definitely a much more realistic and achievable option with people like myself who haven't been in the workforce for the longest time, earning an income and actually having the time to save up enough to buy, a 2-bedroom house in Sydney for like 700, 800K. Just seems very unreasonable. So Queensland, yeah, definitely the go-to. And look, last question of the night is, what made you want to sponsor BCL 2023? Personally, I've played a number of, Bangladeshi community cricket competitions within Sydney, and I've never actually seen a sponsor like this before, and a $5,000 purchase voucher as well. That's a really high amount relative to what we see. So, I just want to get a bit of reasoning as to what made you guys want to sponsor BCL.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess for us, we like to be heavily involved in the community. And when we found this opportunity, we thought, wow, this is going to be a really good reach. And in that, I know a lot of it is around that southwest of Sydney. And also we did believe it was going to be, the younger market and middle age as well. Like you can be any age to invest. But we thought there was a good market there where we could really give people, tell them that it is achievable to be able to invest. Again, we have done a lot in northwest of Sydney around that Rouse Hill, Castle Hill, Kellyville area, and we're just trying to expand a bit. So we did see this platform and we thought it would be perfect because I know that there would be a lot of people out there like yourself that may not know exactly someone like us existed. And if we can get our voice out and help, I know myself, I love helping people get into their first investment because it makes me proud because it shows them that it's achievable, and that's just the beginning for them as well. Once you do your first one and you get over it, then the world's your oyster. You continue to grow, and as you're young, people can really get really good portfolios. But yeah, just really we thought it was a good community platform for us to get involved with.
Fantastic. And again, thank you so much for these vouchers. I think you guys have definitely made a great decision. And like you mentioned, there is a very young community in my team in particular. I think our average age is 24, 25. So a lot of us either just purchased the first one, we've gone over that whole process, and we're preparing to purchase the second in the next year or the next 2 years. And there's also, like you mentioned, a lot of other, like what you target, like middle-aged people who already have a decent portfolio, and it is actually easier for them to actually purchase a new investment property in Queensland. So I think you've definitely struck the right market with that. And we've got 50 just games in the group stage, so that'll be at least 50 people with one of the $5,000 vouchers. So it's very generous from you guys. And I'm glad that if anyone had any questions, we're able to clarify that on this podcast as well. So thank you so much. I think we've just gone over that 30-minute mark. So I really do appreciate you coming on and answering the questions and clarifying. And again, just a huge thanks to Fizz for getting involved in the community and giving out these vouchers. I think they'll be, again, very, very beneficial for those that are trying to get in the market or just trying to expand their property portfolio.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Have a good evening.
You too.
And thanks everyone for watching. Thank you. Bye.